Yo, it's the Fatboy Show on RX Radio. How are you doing today? Hoping you're having a beautiful day. Oh, we're having a great time here today on the show. I'm joined by my special guest, Mr. Dennis Asiimwe, who's a friend of the program. Yeah, he's been on this show many times before, and he's one of our more interesting guests, which is why we're always happy to have him here with us. How you doing, man?
Great to be here, James.
So, we spent a fair part of the morning talking about aspects of the female psyche and of expectations of women. Now I want to introduce the issue of dating culture and who between the genders is benefiting more in the present dating paradigm. Who is having more fun in the dating space today? Men or women? I submit to you that men are.
I submit to you that women are.
All right, I'll go first. I'll tell you why I think men are enjoying themselves more. It's because female sexual liberalization, right? Or the sexual revolution has created a marketplace in which there's a saturation of sex. Previously, if what you wanted was sex, which men have always wanted, you had to court a girl and seek her hand in marriage. There was a long and arduous process. You could very rarely ever casually sleep with a girl. It had to be within the confines of marriage. And this is how it was for most of humanity until very recently when the feminists said that was oppression. They want to have the right to sleep with anyone they want. And in so doing, they just unlocked a Pandora's box just full of there's just too much sex available for men, which is not to say that all that sex isn't fraught with its risks, but the sex is there for the taking, and I dare say at a rather low price now. There might be some women who might insist that you must spend a certain amount of money, but for the most part, a lot of women are willing to sleep for just vibes, and many men are taking advantage of that. So how is that not to the advantage of men?
One could argue that that isn't actually technically dating. That's really what you might like to call hooking up. And hooking up has become a little bit easier and more beneficial to men. But dating, not even it becoming a romantic liaison of any sort, but dating in form of simply following the procedure of take somebody out for a drink, drop them off home, see them a week later, reach out to them during the week with a phone call and stuff like that, it's still much more beneficial to women, mostly because, number one, they never carry the expectation of maintaining the liaison. From an economic perspective, immediately.
All right. So
immediately.
So I think we are potentially looking at two different things. I think yes. When I said dating, you were thinking more of sort of committed relationship type situation.
No.
Because
you could date for, let's say, 3 months. And
but like an exclusive.
Yes, exclusive, but 3 months and then replace.
Okay, so in that scenario, I may partially agree with you that men end up doing most of the work. We are the ones that court, that wine, that dine. The burden of performance is constantly on
Drop
men.
off, gift.
Yeah.
They barely bother.
A woman just needs to show up. That's her job, is to show up and to not look too terrible when she does. And her job is done.
And be called queen.
And be called queen. Even in bed. She can... It's for most guys, it's enough that she just lies down and spreads her legs. A little bit extra might be nice, but most guys can live with that. They're okay with that.
I think if you accept that nonsense, you should.
But I'm saying most guys are okay.
Handing your man card. Yes, a lot of men are happy.
Are happy with that. So in that scenario, yes, you could be right that women do are having more of an advantage. But you see, my point is, isn't dating getting to the point where even that is no longer an option? Because a lot of men are now enjoying casual sex and casual flings without having to meet those performance criteria.
True to a certain extent, because once the higher echelon of the entire interaction between men and women started getting compromised, i.e. marriage, the next level to get compromised was going to be dating. It was always going to get compromised because eventually the men start questioning whether it's worth it or worthwhile. And then they simply go to the next level, which is hooking up, which is where men are at right now.
So you would agree that hookup culture benefits men more?
Much more. I mean, what happens is you simply have, like an Excel sheet or a router dial that you can just use. And if Amanda is not available today, then you simply switch to Cynthia on Tuesday and then Diana on Wednesday. Actually, if I'm like, say, having a dinner party on Saturday and I need a +1, I'll probably ask 2 people.
Whoever comes through first?
Yes.
Or they might both come through, but just in case one bails out.
You always have a time gap on one of those asks. So the second person just simply come up with some emergency of some sort. We live in a dark country, so you can always think of an emergency. But you have to make sure you have 2 people lined up.
Okay, but at least when it comes to how hookup culture might be to women's detriment, I feel like this is of their doing. Because it is women that control access to sex. Unless you're raping someone, you can't force someone to give sex. And women have elected to make it so that they will have sex even if you are only just able to make her feel good or make her feel happy or you have a vibe, that's it. And many times those of us who have attempted more serious committed relationships have been punished for lacking that. Like, you can be the guy that provides all the security, all of the money, but then she's going to give you that whole speech about how she's not happy and how she doesn't feel herself.
How she needs to find her truth.
How she needs to find her truth. And who is she going to run off with? With a guy who doesn't even lift a finger for her, but just has vibes. Do you see? So and without, I guess women don't fully appreciate the extent to which this has influenced men's thinking on relationships.
Yes, because they've essentially made a decision within themselves not to get too invested in them, because she ends up with some chap from an ad agency, maybe like a graphics designer with a crazy hairstyle called Al.
Right, and that's gonna be her little fling for a little while.
Who has vibes?
Who has vibes? He's socially adept. And probably has a little clique of girls that who he may or may not be dealing with, but he's got the vibes, and so for most girls that's a good enough thing.
And he knows how to make cocktails, like really cool ones.
That also. So when us as the guys that were previously more interested in the more serious, committed, long-term, high-investment type relationships, we see this and say, well, then what's the point? Because you're going to do all that, and then eventually that's what you're going to get. I mean, I have received that speech many times and just looked at the person just dumbfounded, like, what in the world are you talking about? And in my head, I'm running the calculations of all the money I spent, the road trips I went on that I didn't even want to do, the gifts I bought that I probably shouldn't have. Like, what was the point of having done all that only to be told that I was deficient in some way? And in fact, almost with the person expressing outrage at the assumption she believed I was making, that because I provided these things, I was deserving of her love. She took umbrage at that. Like, what do you think I am? What, you think you can buy me? And I'm like, wow, okay.
Here's another advantage that women have that men do not have within the dating relationship.
What's that?
Environment. Women have a capacity to accentuate themselves.
Accentuate?
Yes.
In what way?
A million ways. Hair, makeup, nails, what they're wearing.
Oh, you mean so their appearance?
Yeah,
okay.
Their appearance. And they dramatically change their value proposition within, like, they can simply change it within an afternoon.
Change your hairstyle, change the makeup, change the clothes.
The only thing they don't do is change their teeth, but they change like literally everything. So essentially, men simply don't have the capacity, they don't have the practice. Because girls can do that like in 10 minutes. Guys can't. So with them it's hair, heels, makeup, lip gloss, nails, underwear. So there's a very tiny margin with what men can do in terms of self-accentuation, and this gives a significant advantage to women. Because if she wants to up the ante of the game, she simply decides to accentuate herself.
So, I mean, it sounds to me like there's more work for her to do. That's what it sounds like.
No, but she can raise her value proposition. The best way you can raise your value proposition is by going out and buying a new car. But
okay. So for men, we raise our value by doing tangible things that improve our lives.
Yes.
Building wealth.
Yes.
Building influence.
But it costs significantly more.
And takes longer.
I mean, with a guy, you'd probably have to go out if you wanted to accentuate yourself, but in a lighter way. Maybe a lighter way would be maybe you go out and learn a new language like French or something. That's
She just needs to wear some high heels that are going to make her butt look bigger and
completely changes her. Completely. An afternoon in the salon completely changes her.
Okay, but
you have to go to the bond.
So the question, I guess, is at the end of the day, if we were to just tally the pros and cons between the genders in this whole dating game, hookup game, marriage game, whatever it is,
they still hold the edge.
I do feel like in the long run they come out on the losing side, and if they are to come out on the winning side, it would only be because they have the power of delusion, self-delusion, and solipsism on their side. That they have. In other words, she can be in a bad situation and sit there and believe that she's all right, and that everyone just hates her, and that everyone just can't see how amazing she is, but that she is amazing. There's people who can delude themselves like this, and I think they do a better job of it than us as men, because a man can look in the mirror and be like, yeah, you know what, I still have work to do. Maybe I don't look the way I want. Maybe I'm not where I am in my life yet. I need to work harder. For a woman, it's like, and as we were talking about earlier, they're all queens, or so they believe. While having to bring nothing to the table, they're just born queens, and are queens for simply existing. Do you mean to tell me when that woman is shriveled up at 75 years old, childless, husbandless, she's gonna believe that she's lost out in life? No, she's gonna convince herself that she's the happiest person in the universe.
That is true. Women will have this amazing ability to tell themselves to eat, pray, and love. And it's probably the reason why there's a greater level of depression and suicide among us men.
Yeah, because for us, self-delusion is a bit challenging. It's difficult.
It's difficult.
We look at the world in strictly rational terms. If you're broke, you're broke. You know, if you're broke, it's not, oh, I'm in my best element and I'm getting in touch with my inner self. You're like, if you're broke, you're a nobody. And so many men choose to self-delete. And I guess that's what makes the two genders different. And maybe there's a beauty in that to appreciate.
That is true.
Well, live your life and seek happiness in whichever way works out the best for you. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis Asiimwe, for being our special guest on the Fatboy Show today. Make sure to come back, please.
Thank you for having me.
All right. See you next time.
Cheers.
And keep listening to the Fatboy Show on RX Radio.